Okay, I don't actually believe that this is xQc. I'll just say that right now. But for the sake of clickbaiting to my heart's content, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to MarineLorD versus xQc. We have just moved into the multiverse of pro games, right? We have got a former Overwatch pro player facing off against a StarCraft Turning Age of Empires 4 pro player. That's right, it's going to be xQc playing the Rus up against MarineLorD on the English. Or if you are French, l'anglaise. Or if you are Spanish, l'anglaise? I don't know Spanish, I'm sorry. But I'm excited for this one. xQc, I have been seeing his name around the leaderboards, but I still, like I said, I'm not convinced it's the real deal. Could be wrong, though. This could be an intended matchup. Maybe they're best friends. Maybe they play pat cake. But yeah, it's feasible. xQc has only played 33 games. Is currently at 70% win rate with 1499 ELO rating, putting him in 317th place. Meanwhile, MarineLorD, of course, you know where that lad is. The tippity top of the leaderboards. That is right. xQc cannot really compete with the rank of MarineLorD right now, who is sitting in 7th, 1830 ELO. And then, of course, he has the official KEKW account, which is sitting at 1900 ELO, not being touched in 6 days because he wants to keep that juicy seed placement for any upcoming tournaments. But in this matchup, I guess one thing to always look out for, right, is who's going to be sniping out the deer early. It looks like MarineLorD, he's wise to this, is already moving out. Remember, you can't do the micro shenanigans anymore with the scouts. You can't quick snipe. You can't attack cancel. It's kind of funny as well how this patch seemingly got rid of scout attack cancelling, but I think it introduced some weird attack cancelling with certain other units, such as Tower War Elephants, which of course we won't see in this matchup because that's a Delhi unit. But overall, my feelings are still the same. Like, the more I see games, the more I'm convinced of it. The changes to scouts not being able to animation cancel is definitely a buff towards Rus, despite what people think. And in fact, you see it in this situation, right? Like, MarineLorD moves out to snipe out. Nicely done, actually outplaying him there. He's just watching this as well. Oh, no. He's being baited into it. Every time. Has he actually already, like, I think he auto-clicked it. So xQc is getting completely denied by MarineLorD. Oh, this is pure pain. Yeah, because he's microing everywhere, right? He's scouting the base. He's going for a different stack. He's finally able to get one of them here, but MarineLorD denying over half of this stack. This is absolute pain. And you can see he just keeps patiently waiting. MarineLorD's like, I haven't got anything else to do right now. Like, you know, what am I doing? Clicking villages and then getting back on this. So in the end, xQc only up to 40 bounty. And look how many of these stacks have been sniped. We've got one sniped over here. The second one's been sniped here. And then the other one. So both MarineLorD sniped out. He snipes out most of one of xQc's. There is still one remaining. And we'll see who finds it. But yeah, as I was saying about the balancing factor around animation cancelling and why it's actually a buff to Rus, it doesn't look like it in this game because MarineLorD is such a beast. But the reason it's actually a buff is because, obviously, if you build more scouts, that gives you more chance to snipe out. Whereas before, like, if you were quick with animation cancelling and you luckily ran into the deer stacks, which are randomly generated across the map, then you could snipe them all out before an opponent with more scouts could do it. It just didn't logically make sense, right? So by getting rid of the animation cancelling, what they at least done is they reduced the RNG factor about this a bit, which I think was very important. I think xQc, while he'll get the tier 1, we're going to see that kind of impact when you get denied, right? And this would happen a lot against high-level players, is like a good player playing up against Rus would find your stacks and out-micro you and then leave you at only tier 1 maximum. And that was a huge hit. And it's quite incredible when you think about it, because when the game first came out, a lot of people were convinced that Rus were going to be outright broken because of this like bounty system, right? And it can potentially break the game, you know, if you, like, strike gold and get everything on the map. But I recall saying myself, I don't want to say I told you so, but I did tell you so, that at the highest level, good players would shut you out. You would actually struggle in good matchups quite frequently to get your tier 2 bounty unlock. And that means that if you can't get tier 2, you're definitely not getting tier 3, right? Because at that stage, most things are wiped off the map. Probably even the wolves are gone. Maybe there's a few wolf stragglers left, but you're mainly thinking boars. Boars can give you a maximum 150, so you still be 100 short in that situation. You need at least 4 wolves, right? That we're saying if you'd hit the 250 based on like deers mostly alone, right? So the feasibility of hitting tier 3 just wasn't there, especially considering that no one builds the hunting cabin landmark. It just doesn't get done, right? The Abbey of Trinity is just way too good. And you know what? This is way too good as well. xQc, beating his opponent to the feudal, builds straight into a dock on top of his lake. and he'll go straight into an attack ship. However, there is already an outpost being built by MarineLorD. So MarineLorD should be well protected in this area. But this is a cool concept. I do think it's a bit silly to, sacrifice your own ability to get food. But it almost feels like it's just spiteful, right? It's like, you took my deer? All right, I'm going to take your fish. It's only fair. And the attack ship should be complete in time to actually save this villager's life as well. Scouts in the meantime moving around. They're trying to snipe out the villager. This is going to be tight, but I think he's actually got enough here to do it. As in, take out the villager before he completes construction. And yeah, he's trying to just cancel out the attacks a little bit. And that delay actually might cost him the kill. Bomb stabs are not there, and the garrison is complete, so the scouts have to back away now. Attack ship has been constructed. And this is a problem, because remember, MarineLorD needs to drop off at the dock. If you get maybe, I want to say, 3 attack ships, you better sink all of these vessels, even with the healing from the dock. But I don't think he dives near the outpost before that. It's a little bit risky. That being said, maybe he just does it anyway. As it seems, the outpost does not have the range. He's just shy of it. There you go. He starts to get struck by it. He forces the garrison, so they're not actually gathering anymore. Really important, because now look what's happening on the other side. xQc, content with the fact he shut MarineLorD down, who had heavily invested onto this pocket water, right? Like, he'd already built 5 fishing boats, so you could tell he'd invested a lot in this. Remember, they're not cheap. They're 75 each, 75 wood. Now he's content to just go and build a dock over here, have his own secure economy, and shut down MarineLorD's ability to scale quicker with the food boost coming out of the fishing boats. You can see with the healing from the dock himself, just able to burst down the fishing boats and keep the other ones trapped in. Galley now being built. This galley should do reasonably well, but I think if it's 3 attack ships versus the 1 galley, there should be an edge for the Roost player here, but keep in mind the kind of X factor of that repair from the fishing boats that could come out and help. But if you do that, I do think xQc just snipes out your fishing boats, and then you just feel like you wasted a lot of eco on this pocket of water, right? So 2 fishing boats and an attack ship out. Did he switch one of these? I think he brought an attack ship out and switched it over. Pretty sure that's what occurred here. But now the attack ship, like, he has his fishing boats out, right? So he'll be able to repair up as well, which is why you need to snipe out the fishing boats, if anything. You can see he's now trying to do it. So xQc does need to actually micro this. Meanwhile, on land, longbows is now starting to come out from MarineLorD, just trying to ramp up that pressure, as we always see out of England once they hit that time of the council hall. But it looks like he's losing the fishing boats. He's not microing this. He's not repairing them. I'm starting to wonder if he even knows. He finally tries, but it's way too late. And now that's a problem, right? He needed more attack ships, if anything. You're not going to win out in a one-on-one here against the galley. But he's taking advantage of this to expand onto more pockets. And you can see MarineLorD also mirror matching this, going over this one. So they're going to each get their lion's share, their split, right? Quite evenly. And yeah, I like this move. Snipes out on the fishing ships again, forces the garrison once more. But xQc never garrison his own, so his fishing boats are just being sunk. And we said already, right? In the one-on-one, like, MarineLorD's going to win this out. So you either invest more to defend it, or you just sacrifice it now, content with the fact you sniped a lot of these fishing boats. And I think he's going to do the latter in this situation. He does need to address land, after all. And that's why he did build the stables. So he's starting to get to these knights, something that right now MarineLorD has no solution for. And it doesn't look like he's going to have it anytime soon, right? This hard wood investment on the water means he actually didn't have what he needed to invest into a barracks. And even once he hits the 150 mark, you probably still don't directly, like, immediately go into a barracks, simply because you actually need that additional wood not only to rebuild your fishing fleet, but also, remember, the longbows cost 50 wood to produce. So it's very hard to justify the spearmen as well that also have a small treacle cost of wood. I believe it's 60 food and 20 wood is the overall cost. And MarineLorD, oh, that is good. That's pain. So he scouts out that he's beaten onto the lake. I like the idea. It was never going to work. I don't know if any of them are spotted. Okay, MarineLorD knows about this northern one. That would be his play. So then he'd actually have eco advantage on water, right? Because he'd be producing on 3 different masses. And you kind of have to have that. You can't be even with the Roost player, because remember, the Roost player, they don't have to drop off. They don't waste time. Every time they fill up, they just, I don't know, ask the fairies to drop it off back at base. And, you know, just like a fairy godmother, bingity bongity bush has just gone straight into the pockets of the Roost player. And that does matter, especially when you're going to these further off fishing points that will start to come into relevance a few minutes in on these banks, right? So longbow being up to 8. MarineLorD needs a different play, though. Like, you can't run back across. You did see your opponent producing knights. You know you're counted out in that regard. In fact, you did also force him to go double stable. So now xQc needs to find value, right? He's kind of heavily invested into this. So if he just sits back and guards, it's a wasted endeavor. Also, keep in mind MarineLorD showing no signs of scaling up. Something we've highlighted about playing England is quite often you neglect gold, and we're seeing it right here. Because he needs everyone on the food and the wood to be able to support the eco, right? To be able to support the output of the longbows as well as now the spearmen. And that does mean that MarineLorD is on the clock. He has to end this quickly, and that's why he built the blacksmith as well. He just wants to get siege engineering after upgrading the steeled arrows. And that means that xQc now has a tough choice. Do I try and contest him in the moment right now, or do I try and scale up? Do I try and boom into that castle age timing, understanding that everything that an English player will put out will be countered? Because even if he goes to those early men-at-arms, the Vanguard men-at-arms and early men-at-arms, they are so static that they'll never catch horse archers, and horse archers will counter everything else that England do. Nice charging in. Spearman's starting to trickle out, but you're going to lose several of these longbowmen at this rate. Actually just amasses on top of the spearmen, just trying to deal with them before they start to clump up. And we'll snipe out a few of these longbows. If anything, he needs to cycle into the economy lines, and he's not doing it. And I don't think he can now. Considering the placement of the barracks by MarineLorD, and this is the cool part, it's very hard to try and sneak past the spearmen because they're going to actually be coming out and running past where you flank in. So the only way you can really expose this eco, if you're xQc, is if you wrap all the way around the back. And that takes a lot longer and is easily scouted out, right? Like, keep in mind vision situation. MarineLorD will probably see you coming even with the high ground to your advantage. So MarineLorD now setting up a 48 eco total. You can see xQc taking the lead at 52. And it's courtesy of those fishing boats, right? Slowing down this expansion, screwing him on the investment there, and then, you know, sneaking onto these multiple pockets as he did. And he is onto this one as well. And he is building the attack ships. And MarineLorD doesn't know. Oh my god. So xQc sees this with his dock, but his dock is not spotted out by MarineLords. Wow, that's actually going to be a big deal. It's going to give him the edge here. Might allow him to just boom up the required number of attack ships to sink this entire fishing fleet. And speaking of sinking things, MarineLorD moves straight out towards xQc's location over here. Remember, these fishing boats have 0 range resistance, hence why they just died to 2 volleys of arrows from 13 longbowmen. If anything, he needs to switch up, and he still hasn't. He's still building the fishing boats. Big mistake being made here. Looks like he's going to lose another one. Seems like xQc is just not necessarily paying enough attention to these small details. Like, he does move the knights out now, and I think that was his priority, but he could easily save these fishing boats by banking them, right? And that is a big deal. It will add up over time. These small differences are really what matters at the highest level. MarineLorD losing out. I mean, these early knights are actually quite pathetic against hard spearmen. You're seeing it. They'll eventually get through them, but the cost is so high. The knights are going to be washed, and this is why you can't just rely on knights alone. And I think it's a big part of why we've already seen that transition away from early knights by Roos, and we'll continue to see it as time goes on in this new meta that's developing, right? Is this bonus damage, this extra damage on the spears, makes them pretty lethal. And it's just not a good trade, right? Like, if 2 spearmen can beat each knight, right, and you math that out, that situation, knights costing 140 food, 100 gold, compared to the 60 food, 20 wood, it's already economically viable, right, to just counter out directly with spears now. But then it's a 15-second production time compared to 35. So there's no way you can keep up. So instead, xQc, this should be where the tech up now begins, right? Or at least he plans for it. He's switching the archery range because he needs to try and deal with the spearmen. But I think if anything, you need to try and hunker down and get that tech up. The problem he has is all his gold is spent, right? Because he spent so much of it on the knights. And that is the problem. There's really, it's not easy to balance going knights and trying for a tech up. You're either doing one or the other. I think the mistake that maybe was made here by xQc is he really should have probably just went straight into the horsemen. Because while they're nerfed, obviously you'd be able to scale gold. Your food is good, right, in this situation. You have so many fishing vessels that you were fine on that front. But the fact that you were never able to keep up with gold, even with the assistance of the Golden Gate, means that now MarineLorD definitely has the strong arm position. And I believe he has completed tech now, right? Ooh, siege engineering still not researched. I'd like to see this done now by MarineLorD. But right now, I don't think he knows just how far ahead he is at this stage. And although the scores on the right look close, it doesn't feel that way. And yeah, while he did snipe out some of these fishing boats in the end, MarineLorD just starts producing the galleys. 2 galleys will fight off the attack ships here. This is kind of the wonky part about the change to the Roost. That early rush potential by switching your fishing fleet into attack ships was powerful. But the problem I have now is there's so many techs that need to be researched that it stops you from actually pushing out a fleet quickly. And if you don't research these techs, then the attack ships are actually quite pathetic, as we're seeing. I think something's going to have to be tweaked to Roost. The whole concept of pivoting, right, and switching your ships on the go is cool, yes. But in reality, as I said, unless you get a decent amount of these technologies researched, you're not going to do anything. And how frequently do you have surplus docks to be able to research those? Not to mention the fact that the cost of doing so, right? Especially when you consider like the LoD your attack ship compared to what the galley costs. I mean, the galley, you expect it to trade better. But considering the production times are fairly similar, it definitely feels like Roost will just always lose out in this matchup. So, xQc pushed into his base. Trying to move out now. Rebuild the Night Force. They are on the roll. But the Longbow army just keeps building. It's never been sunk. And now the tech up out of MarineLorD. He snuck this one so quickly. Was this marketplace? No, this was just simply gathering the gold. I mean, he hasn't got anything else to spend gold on other than the occasional galley, right? But he puts enough people in the gold line that he's going for the tech up, but it does get sniped out by xQc. xQc trying to delay this. The problem is that he just doesn't have the military forces, and he isn't teching up himself. So what are you really delaying towards? Answer is a very slow loss. Because you're going to lose your expansions at this rate. You're going to lose the tech war. You're losing the eco war. You're losing on all fronts, really. And as you try to run in and find some eco damage, it's going to feel pathetic and negligible. Now that your opponent's gone up with King's Palace as well, he's able to double you up on land, right? Because it's 1 TC versus the 2 now. And you can see xQc with the immediate switch over hard onto gold will try to catch up, but he's definitely fighting a losing battle at this stage. He needs big impact from this army. And with a composition of archers and knights, maybe he can finally do it. Let's see. Problem is, Harden's been not being researched just yet. Not enough gold. So he can somewhat have the edge still. Marketplace now going down as well to try and help that. Knights trying to bait out the spearmen so they can be targeted by the archers, but the numbers are just too strong for MarineLorD. And xQc learning a hard lesson on exactly how and why early Rust Knights are not good. And in fact, most of the time a big fat bait, as he'll call the GG, MarineLorD will take the win.